Okay, so you know that feeling, right? Like after an election, you're just bombarded with analysis, and everyone's telling you why one side lost. Ugh, it's exhausting.
It really is.
So let's just try something totally different today. No rehashing the same old narratives about why, say, this candidate messed up or that party fumbled.
Sounds good to me.
Instead, we're diving into a way more interesting question. Why did the other side gain so much support in 2024? And specifically, we're talking about the surge in support for Donald Trump. It's less about dissecting a defeat and way more about understanding this really unique, I don't know, phenomenon in politics.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what we're going to dig into today. For this deep dive, we're looking at a super thought-provoking discussion from the YouTube channel The Ring of Fire.
Oh, yeah, I've seen their stuff.
They've got this video. It's called Trump's Bizarre Political Appeal Played Major Role in 2024 Victory. And honestly, it offers a seriously fresh perspective on what clicked with a big chunk of voters.
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, right? What was it about his approach that resonated so strongly with, well, a certain segment of the electorate?
Right. And the video really digs into this concept of Trump having this unique political appeal, something that makes him different, hard to put in a box.
Totally. Okay, so let's get into it. One of the first things that jumped out at me from this video is the idea of the what if factor.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more about that.
So the idea is that part of Trump's appeal might come from this very human tendency to wonder, like, what would happen if we just blew it all up?
I see what you mean.
Even if it meant embracing a little chaos, right? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, what's fascinating here is that they're suggesting some voters, especially those who felt let down by the system, maybe disillusioned, they might have been tempted to roll the dice, like, let's just try something totally different.
It's risky, right?
For sure. The source is hinting that it might not even be a completely logical choice. More like a feeling of, hey, things can't get much worse, so why not see what happens?
And, this actually taps into a pretty well-studied thing in psychology. When people are super frustrated, they're more likely to take risks.
Even if those risks could have negative consequences.
Sometimes, yeah. Especially if they think there's a chance for a huge change. Think of it like someone stuck in a dead-end job who suddenly decides to start their own business.
Risky, but could pay off big.
Exactly.
That's a really interesting way to look at it. It's like everyone's inner rebel, just amplified on a national scale.
It is. And, the source also talks about this enigmatic quality that Trump has. It's like he keeps people guessing.
You never know what he's going to say or do next.
Right. And they bring up examples like the Greenland story, the Panama Canal story. There was even something about Canada.
Oh, yeah, I remember those. It was always hard to tell if he was serious or just messing with people. Exactly. And that unpredictability plays into his appeal, but in different ways for different people. I mean, think about it. For those who crave stability and predictability in government, it can be kind of scary.
Definitely.
But for voters who feel like the system is broken, that same unpredictability can be a good thing.
Like he's not afraid to shake things up.
Exactly. It creates this feeling that anything is possible. Whether that's good or bad, well, that depends on who you ask.
Absolutely. Now, this whole idea of wanting to shake things up ties into that tiger cage analogy they use, which I thought was brilliant.
Oh, yeah. Tell me, how did you interpret that analogy?
It really stuck with me. It's like that image of finding a key that says tiger cage, and you just have this urge to open it, even though you know there are tigers in there.
Right. It perfectly captures that desire for disruption, even if it means risking something bad happening. And the source argues that for some voters, the potential chaos of releasing the tigers, so to speak, by electing Trump, well, it might have seemed worth a gamble.
Because their lives felt like they were already in a cage.
Yeah, if the status quo feels like a trap, any change, even a potentially destructive one, might seem like a path to something better.
Okay, so we've talked about this idea of voters choosing disruption, even if it means risking chaos. But the source also mentions another possibility, right? It's not just that people were embracing Trump. Maybe they were rejecting the other option.
You're exactly right. And that brings us to what the video calls Democratic fatigue. They present it as this feeling of weariness with the Democratic Party.
And what were some of the reasons for this fatigue, according to the source?
Well, they point to a few specific things. Voters feeling tired of what they saw as too much focus on DEI issues, concerns about trans issues, and also anxieties about censorship, like limitations on free speech and certain viewpoints being suppressed.
So it's not necessarily a love for Trump, but a dislike of the alternative.
Right, exactly. It's crucial to understand this perspective,
Yeah.
because it's saying that some of those votes for Trump weren't necessarily endorsements of him, but more like votes against certain things they associated with the Democrats.
It makes you think about how we interpret election results, doesn't it?
For sure. And then, of course, there's the economic piece of the puzzle, which is always a big factor.
Yeah, those kitchen table issues that always seem to matter so much. The video emphasizes that a lot of voters felt like the economy wasn't working for them personally, even if they heard reports saying things were going well overall.
Exactly. And the source really highlights this as a major, maybe even the biggest, driver for Trump support. They argue that while official numbers might have looked good, lots of people were struggling with everyday expenses like, the price of eggs keeps going up and things like that.
So even if the overall economy is doing well, if people don't feel it in their own lives, they'll look for a change.
Absolutely. It goes back to that old saying, it's the economy, stupid. And it's interesting because the video also critiques the Democrats' messaging and communication, suggesting they maybe didn't connect with some voters on this issue.
Like they weren't speaking to people's everyday concerns.
Right. They specifically mentioned that focusing on Trump's flaws and past controversies didn't resonate with people who were worried about their jobs or paying their bills. It's like if someone's house is on fire, they don't care about a leaky faucet.
So to sum up, the video argues that the rise in support for Trump in 2024 was probably a mix of different things. We've got this desire for big change, maybe even a willingness to embrace chaos. Then there's the appeal of his unpredictable personality and, of course, widespread frustration with the economy. And all of this might have been amplified by a sense that the Democrats weren't addressing people's concerns.
Exactly. And, it's important to remember, as the source itself acknowledges, figuring out how much each of these things contributed is super complex. It's not like a simple equation.
Human behavior is never that simple.
For sure. And in fact, the video even says they can't quite put their finger on the exact recipe for this appeal. It's kind of elusive.
Well, I think that's what makes it so fascinating, right?
Absolutely.
So after this deep dive into this YouTube video, it seems like we have a really nuanced picture of Trump's appeal in 2024. It goes way beyond those basic partisan explanations and points to a deeper mix of longing for change, fascination with an unpredictable figure, and very real economic anxieties that maybe weren't being addressed.
Totally. And it really raises a big question for you listening out there. With all these different perspectives on the 2024 election, what do you think this tells us about how political appeal is changing? What are the things that really get voters motivated in a world where everything's changing so fast and information is coming from everywhere?
It's a lot to think about, right? This whole interplay of personality, economic realities, and how effectively political messages are communicated. Definitely something to keep in mind as we try to navigate the political landscape, both now and in the future.
Couldn't agree more.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. It's been really insightful.
My pleasure. Always a great discussion.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive.